Hello and welcome to another episode of Gaming Views, the podcast that serves up a volley of fascinating gaming facts. So for the next hour or so, sit back and enjoy another smash of a gaming subject, which we hope will be a game set and match for your listening pleasure. I'm Dan P, and my doubles partner is someone who's always serving an ace on and off the mic. He's a Grand Slam champion of video editing who never double faults on his delivery. Give it up for my co-host, Dan H. Hiya, Dan. How are you doing?
Oh my word, I am well. It's almost as if you've been somewhere this week. It's given you the idea for an amazing intro.
Could
and
you
I'm
tell
not
that
sure
was
where it
tennis
could have been.
inspired?
That was freaking awesome, dude. I love that. That's smashing out aces. Yeah, I wish that were true because they kind of go really quickly and just finish really quickly. Editing doesn't do that at all. I'm really well. I'm very warm.
It's hot,
and I've just got back from a lovely air conditioned couple of hours in a cinema, which was delightful. And now I'm sitting here sweating certain parts of my body off, which is not so delightful.
I've got a fan next to me which I've turned off because I don't want it to be like just creating horrendous noise, and it's saying 32 degrees at the moment. So and I got ice packs again. I actually had one, but I forgot to put them in the freezer early enough, so they're already I think they're heat packs now at this point. I think it's a heat pack. Yeah.
That's not how ice works, Dan.
Well, no, it's that gel. It's that gel. It's that, it's the one where you get where you have an injury, of which I've had many, because obviously the tennis player that I am. But it is hot. That's what I was going to say. The heat is back. So
we're British. We'll complain when it's hot. We'll complain when it's cold. We'll complain when it's mild. We'll complain when it rains or when it's dry, or we're just weather, innit?
It's the wrong type of heat, though, isn't it? That's what it is.
Do you know what? It is beautiful out there. It was like when coming out of the cinema. It was like walking into when you get off a plane abroad.
Yes,
and you've been in that. It was exactly that. You kind of walk out and you go, "Oh my god, it's really, really warm. It's really lovely." So yeah, it was. I'm actually quite enjoying it. Apart from sitting in an enclosed office, dying of heat exhaustion. Other than that, it's great.
I do. Well, we'll see how quick this episode goes then, because we had like about 3 hours planned. So let's see how.
Master of torture.
And I want to play an ad, but before we do, a couple of things. So one, I guess I should ask, what have you been playing?
That's really easy this week because the answer's absolutely nothing, because I have genuinely failed at playing video games for once in my life in an entire week. I think I maybe had about an hour and a half continuing with Half-Life Alyx, if I dare say it, on Sunday. The rest of the week, work and family and life in general got in the way. So yeah, nothing.
There was one other game you played briefly.
Did I did. Sorry, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and God, for those watching,
do you see my age?
Well, I was going to say, for those listening to audio only, head over to the YouTube channel. Just see Dan's realisation there. Yeah,
it's mainly because I played it with you, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, we indulged in a bit of split fiction earlier in the week, which was quite possibly one of the funniest moments of gaming I've ever had.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Door is all I'll say to you, Dan. But it was, and sausages. But other than that, it was genuinely a moment of just brilliance. And we got to get back to that as well, because it was so good. Yeah,
and hopefully we might have when we do another session, we might have something to share. But yeah, that was great fun. Such a well done game. So
good. But what have you? Because you'll say, "Oh, nothing," and then you'll reel off about 8 or 9 games you've completed in the space of a week. So
no, I was going to say I've had a busy week as well, but I played and completed Little Nightmares 2. Little Nightmares 2.
I started that. I couldn't get on with it. I got past the training bit, and I was just like, does it get better? Because it was just...
I really liked it, yeah.
What's the game it reminded me of?
Limbo.
And I did love Limbo, and I finished Limbo, and it reminded me very heavily of Limbo, but I just got a bit bored very quickly of it. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe I should give it another go.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. So looking to the third. So, yeah, really, that was it. I completed my first run of a Balatro.
Nice.
Balatro.
No, we've got to educate the people and the boys. It's
Balatro,
because we watched the trailer, the official trailer that pronounced it correctly. Balatro. Emphasis on the L.
Balatro. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast that teaches you how to pronounce game names. So that was it really. So just those two. So before we go into the advert, well, it's a teaser really because I don't want to say anything about it, but hopefully our next episode is something you and I are both really, 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 really excited about, aren't we?
Oh man, I am stoked about this, and I'm just, but mainly because it reminds me not of my childhood, because that would be wrong, but it's a link back into my, I guess, late teens, and talking to someone very special about someone who was involved in that in a certain way. I won't say any more. But I am super stoked for that to happen. So our next episode is going to be a very special one.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're not subscribed to us, please do, because we're going to have a very special guest and it's going to be a great episode. So stay tuned for that. Let's hear a trailer from some friends of ours, and we're going to hear from the trap. We're going to hear from the chaps. It's easy for you to say. We're going to hear from the chaps over at Seismic Cinema.
We're Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin. I've probably not seen it. Paul's watched it in the wrong order.
and I'm James, and I've probably written an essay on it. And that's Seismic Cinema. We believe in the power of escapism.
Right. We are going to talk today about failed launches or hardware that didn't really prove to be successful, or the hype maybe they had behind it. And I think it's important.
Hang on. I thought when you said the title was Failure to Launch, I was watching a load of rom-coms.
Oh, damn.
Waiting to...
What have we done?
Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew McConaughey movies, and now you've sent me down a spiral.
Welcome to the movie reviewing podcast. No, tell me you didn't, right?
No, I really didn't. No, it's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
But I think it's important to say we're not here. It's not like a finger pointing or celebrating failure. I think it's important to say that. I mean, we keep saying that the history of gaming has had some massive successes, but it's also had a lot of, things that just didn't quite get there. But each one of those, I think, has paved the way for something down the line.
Totally. Look, some of these things are ahead of their time, if anything.
Yeah.
They were in advance of what came after, and like you said, paved the way, or even if it just opened the door a little bit, into a broader world that a lot of us now live in, right? I think you're right. There's some really cool stuff in here. There's some not so cool stuff in here as well. There are some genuine, slapped in the face, what the hell happened type things. But lots to go through.
And it's all part of the history of gaming, right? So I think it's important to cover it. So I was going to start because I had a couple, but I want you to start now because my first one is going to reference one of yours, and then it just feels like a spoiler. So we might as well have your first one.
One of yours is going to reference one of mine. I've got many. Which one do you want?
What can I say? The funny looking one.
Oh, many of them are funny looking, Dan. You've thrown me now.
From a mobile manufacturer.
N-Gage, the Nokia N-Gage. Okay, fine. Right, we'll start with the N-Gage. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It was a bit confused. Maybe is probably a good way to put it. They kind of went, what would happen if a mobile phone and a handheld, and think of the handheld at the time. So this is what 2003. So if so not your iPhones and your but something a bit more chunky. What happened if we put them together, a mummy phone and a daddy handheld, and they had a baby? And so it came out as something that was just a bit ugly. It was, it had a weird side talking phone design type thing, and it felt like you were, I don't know, holding a taco to your face. I imagine. I never.
I think it was. I think it was nicknamed that. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Taco phone. And
so that'd be why.
Without being cruel, it was an ugly thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. It wasn't game changing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But But I think it's because of what you said, though, that it was a phone that was trying to be a handheld gaming system. So if it was just a gaming system, it might have passed. But because it was a phone, I mean, I knew someone that had one. So have you seen pictures of how you used it as a phone?
I've seen pictures. I didn't brush up. As always, I failed to do any type of genuine research this week because, you know me, chaos and all that. But I have seen images before. I just know it was very poor to play, like in terms of a gaming experience, and it was quite poor as a phone. So it kind of had two purposes and achieved neither of them, which was a bit of a mess.
Quite impressive.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do something badly, do it badly in both types of things.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was saying about if it had stuck to gaming. So imagine, for those of you who don't know what it is, try find it. It was kind of like, I want to say like the Game Gear in kind of size and shape-ish. Kind of, it was chunky, it was...
Yeah.
Or taco shaped, I guess, but you held it obviously to play a game with the screen, which from my memory, the screen was tiny as well.
It was tiny and vertically orientated as well, which
yes,
it isn't very helpful when you're trying to create a handheld. So it was, you had a vertical orientation on it and it just looked weird. I mean, it was weird. Yeah. I hadn't put the taco thing together, but I've just brought up an image of it, and I will share on YouTube as well. I can imagine holding the thing. You would look like you were, holding something a taco.
Exactly it. Imagine like holding, and that's why I was saying like the Game Gear. Imagine holding that to the side of your head, and that's the thing. And it for me then it didn't work as a serious device for a phone, of which you're probably paying a lot of the money as well for that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a cheap thing, right? So at the time, $300.
Wow. Okay.
And the nearest, I guess the nearest graphical capability to it was probably something like the Game Boy Advance, which was like, $100. So you may have been paying $200 for a not very good phone that was very awkward to hold.
Yeah.
Which is like...
And tiny screen.
And a pretty terrible game library.
So what year, did you say it's out? Because I found a funky little website.
2003, I think.
Right, so let's do the 1-to-1 ratio because we know that's what the dollars to pounds was, right? So 2003, £300 would now be £549.
There you go.
In today's money.
Probably cheap for a handheld these days. But considering most mobile phones can do everything that a handheld can do, sales-wise... I mean, it wasn't a great story. I wouldn't call it one of Nokia's success stories. So they'd initially targeted about 6 million units to ship. They ended up shipping about 2 million, but that was shipped. So consumer sales were much lower. And just on the stats I'm looking at now, in the first 2 weeks in the US, it was outsold by the Game Boy Advance. Have a guess how many to one?
Oh, dear. 4-to-1.
100 to 1. So 100 for every 100 Game Boy Advance units, they sold one Nokia N-Gage or Taco, whatever you want to call it.
And do you know the thing is, we go back to our Xbox episode, right? Nokia, okay, they were phone manufacturers, but they weren't. They knew what they were doing in terms of technology and phones, right? So they knew their stuff. So it just shows that you can't just magic up a success just because of your name, right?
No, and but they might have been able to pivot and do that had the marketing strategy not been so terrible, which is primarily to aim the device at kids. I'm not being funny.
Right, okay, yeah.
I don't want to have my kid what equates to now a $550 mobile device to plays games, right? So it's not...
Could have been the size of their head as well.
Yeah, right. So, and if you're, and then you're kind of missing your target audience, probably for good reason, because most of the people who had disposable income to play that were probably playing a dedicated device and kind of going, well, I know where I want that thing to live. So, yeah, unfortunately, not a great one, and definitely a failure to launch on that part.
Yeah, and just the last thing on that, because I think it was cartridge based, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So like I said, I knew a guy, I worked with a guy who had one, he bought it in and he had Tomb Raider, and I was watching him play Tomb Raider on it, and yeah, it was It was never going to win awards.
I guess Tetris might have been okay with a vertical orientated screen because they worked, right? The Game Boy had one when it first launched, but that was great for Tetris and not much else. I mean, what you
also wasn't 550 quid's worth of.
there is that, yeah. So I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Well, I don't think many people were.
Apparently not. They preferred the Game Boy Advance.
But yeah, so what do you think about that one, though? Do you think it was purely because it just didn't do, and this sounds really bad, didn't do anything well? So, and by that I mean, so the gaming side, we said the screen was poor. You know, were you going to play it on that rather than, say, a Game Boy? And also the phone, it was quite embarrassing, I think, to use as a phone. So why would you use it?
Yeah, I think it was failure on all points because, you know, this is a time when people weren't as fascinated or absorbed by raw power and numbers and capability and OLED screens and everything else. It was purely about how much fun can I have with this thing that I've got in my hands. And I can't even imagine trying to switch to a call while you're trying to play that thing or vice versa. It's a pretty awkward thing to do. And being seen in public with this, I'm just taking a call. Give me 2 seconds. I don't know how to hold the thing. Yeah, I think it was just all round just bad trying to jump on a bandwagon because it was at a time when you did have a number of quite successful handhelds around, and that market was probably at its height in those days. So, you know, not a dumb idea at all to kind of go, well, how do we blend something that's really taken off, mobile phones, with something that's already quite well established and doing well, handhelds? Great idea, poor execution.
Which is funny then if you look sort of a matter of years later, sort of how the mobile gaming world then kind of took off. So again, do you think just a little ahead of their time, what they were trying to do, and rush to market with something?
Yeah, potentially, because, I mean, Nokia aren't exactly, you know, prolific now, are they? I mean, they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, they got swallowed by Microsoft, didn't they? Like many other things.
Yeah.
At one point.
Although the 3310, what a phone. Okay.
I think there's probably about 8 of them still somewhere around this house because they just survived everything.
Okay. You ready to hear my first one, or was there more
I would love to hear your first one because I'm going to cross them off my list of 14 or so as you go down.
I've got a story to tell you on this one, though.
Ooh, I love a story, Dan.
And I'm going to tell you a bit about it, but you're not. Well, I've always found this. The reason why this one always sticks in my mind, right? Because the ending is probably more of a story than the story of the console itself, but
okay.
we'll head on to it. So it's the Gizmondo, so not to be confused with Gizmodo, but the Gizmondo.
Or Gizmo from Gremlins. Don't confuse it with Gizmo from Gremlins.
But, yeah, well, you probably wouldn't want to have got this wet either, but did you know of the Gizmondo?
I recall the name because it was quite a terrible name.
Yeah.
I don't know much more than that about it, I'll be honest.
Okay, well, like I said to you, I remember it at the time, but only because of how it ended in quite an abysmal way. But I won't go fully into all the details, but the Gizmodo, there I go. I said to you, don't confuse it with that. The Gizmondo was a handheld gaming device manufactured by Tiger Telematics. Now, when I said to you it was going to reference yours, it came in response to the N-Gage. So, you know, taking. I mean,
if you're gonna try and take someone's crown, definitely go after the N-Gage.
Yeah. So the company headed by a Swedish entrepreneur, Carl Fried, decided they wanted to do a device. But this is the first weird thing. The company were initially looking to do something for children with a GPS-based child tracking device in it. So you were going to always be able to.
Not creepy. No. Not your own children. Sorry.
No, your own children. So it's kind of a bit Black Mirror there, isn't it? It kind of feels there. But they soon dropped that element.
Of course. And
they created a device called the Game Track, right? So this made its debut in Las Vegas at the CES show in January 2004.
Right.
Later at a German show in March. Now, in April of 2004, it makes an appearance at E3 and gets renamed the Gizmondo. All right. So the company then formed a London-based studio, or a London branch of their company. They hired Jensen Button. Do you remember him, the F1 driver?
I do remember Jensen Button, yeah.
They get him on board to appear in adverts for them because they gave him his own licensed game for the system called Chicane, which, spoiler, never actually came out because of creative differences between Tiger Telematics and the game developer.
Okay.
It's a great start there. So the console did get launched. It got launched in September 2004 as a soft launch and got a full UK release in March 2005. Priced at $229, which is £405 in today's money.
Cheaper than an N-Gage. But it didn't have a phone, so...
No. No. And it only had one game available for it at the time called Trailblazer. All right?
I'm with you so far.
Okay.
I got a feeling this is going to get worse, though.
Well, like I said, the bit I'm waiting for is completely bizarre. It's going to go into bizarre territory. So it got a full release in March of 2005. Now, in the UK, they had their own flagship store. So, new company, new device, they built a flagship store, as well as selling it through a number of British retailers.
A bold step.
But do you know what was even bolder as part of the launch? So I said to you they got Jensen Button to star in adverts in the game. They had a number of celebrities. They threw a party. They had a number of celebrities, including Busta Rhymes, Jodie Kidd, and Pharrell Williams.
Wow.
So they were among the celebrities launching this. Yeah. Now, in an attempt also to promote the console, one of the company's executives, Stefan Eriksson, and we're going to hear about him later, and boy, are we going to hear about him later. Okay. He took part in a 24-hour Le Mans race,
right?
In a Gizmondo-sponsored Ferrari 360.
Of course.
Yeah. The Gizmondo sold 1,000 units within an hour of launch. I think they were looking to sell like 5 times that. They introduced another variant which had, this is another funny thing, it was called Smart Ads. So you would watch 3 ads a day. And so they knocked £100 off the price. The thing is, that ad system never launched. So if you got that, you got it for £100 less than everyone else and never had the ad system in place anyway.
Smooth. What they needed was a head of monetization, Dan, you see.
Yes. Now, they said that it was then going to roll out to the rest of Europe, but the date passed. That was going to be 2 months later, but the date passed and it never got released. It only received a limited release in Sweden that year. In the States, the Gizmondo launched much later in October 22nd, 2005 with 8 titles. Now, of 14 games, only between the US and the UK, only 14 games were ever announced and only 8 of those were released in the US. So it was poor. I think they had over 30 planned and there was only 14 in total released with 8 in the UK.
Wow. With
the best-selling game being called Sticky Balls.
Sorry, just rewind a sec. Sorry, it's called what?
You heard Sticky Balls. That was what it was. And no, it's not
I'm just wondering because it's quite warm in this office. So I'm just wondering if I heard you right.
Yep, you heard absolutely right. So just to summarise how it did. So, Europe got 15 games, US had 8, 35 games were cancelled. Gizmondo Europe was bleeding cash. I think it was like 500,000 a day. So basically in 2004 alone, so this was before it launched, they were £49 million in red.
Wow.
And in 2006, January, they went into administration.
Really? Why?
Yep.
Poor. I can't imagine what would have gone wrong, Dan.
Well, they only sold 25,000 units of this worldwide. They amassed £160 million of debt, and so they stopped production. So it has been called by a number of outlets as the worst-selling handheld console of all time, as well as the worst console of all time, full stop.
I take everything back about the N-Gage. Blimey. I mean...
But, right, so that's bad enough, right? So I'm going to take you back. So do you remember I mentioned Stefan Eriksson?
His name popped up. He didn't start another mobile phone company, did he? Eriksson?
He did a lot more. He did a lot more. Oh, sorry.
No, nothing. No.
Well, I think he would have been happy to do that. So before he joined that company, he was a criminal. He was known to the Swedish police.
Do we need the lawyers on this? I don't know. Is he genuinely?
Well, no. This is on Wikipedia.
Okay.
This is on Wikipedia. I'm reading this. Yeah. Now, I knew the end bit of this, which then made me look it up. So, as we want to say, this is on Wikipedia, so this isn't gaming views, slander. But yeah, he was known as a banker by the local mob in Sweden's fourth largest city of Uppsala. And basically, he was the leader of the Uppsala mafia in that area.
Wow.
Right. So a lot of sort of shenanigans. He was an auto body shop worker. He started his criminal career with thefts and a 3-month prison term, followed by another term of 3.5 years for drugs and arms related convictions. Anyway, let's scoot through. So he does a lot of things.
Okay.
Joins Gizmondo in 2001. He does that Le Mans event. But this is the thing now, and this is the one that stands out. So after the company liquidated, he lost control of an Enzo Ferrari sports car valued at over $2 million while allegedly driving high speed and intoxicated along the Pacific Coast Highway in California.
Yeah.
Right. The car careened off the road, hit something so hard it split the car in half. He and an Irish-born American were found at the site. Now, Ericsson claimed to be a passenger in the Ferrari, and that a man he only knew as Dietrich was the driver. Now, Dietrich never was found, so they don't know. He was never. There was no Dietrich, and that's the thing. And so neither he existed, right? So investigators confirmed the existence of the videotape of the accident shot from inside the car. The video showed the speedometer giving the 199 mile per hour reading right before it malfunctioned due to the crash. And basically, he then got arrested. He brandished a business card claiming to be a deputy police commissioner with the San Gabriel Valley Transit Authority, whose founder was later arrested for perjury in connection with the case. The other guy with him borrowed a phone in a passerby car where he tucked away a magazine for a Glock pistol.
What?
2 men showed up to speak with Ericsson, claiming to be from the Department of Homeland Security. And then on March of 2006, his fiancée was pulled over while driving a 2005 Mercedes-Benz McLaren. She was pulled over because the officer found the car's European license plate suspicious. It was discovered that person did not have a valid driver's license. Furthermore, the car was found to be unregistered, carrying British license plates, and illegally exported from Britain. A further investigation revealed that the crashed red Ferrari, a second black Ferrari, and 2 other Mercedes were also unregistered and illegally exported.
Where did all that money they used they used to fund the Gizmondo go? What did they do with that? Because cars?
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's it. So ultimately, he accepted a plea bargain and then was ultimately deported. So he then when he got back to Sweden, he soon received an 18-month prison sentence for extortion and aggravated assault after pouring petrol on the target of his debt collection services. So, do you remember when I said to you it was a crazy end to this one?
I mean, the guy's a lunatic. Is he still? Well, sorry, he might be a lovely guy. I mean, is he still alive?
I think he is. Yeah,
he's a lovely guy.
He is.
Just in case he listens to Gaming Views. That's mad.
I mean, the thing is, after that, I've kind of forgotten really everything about the device itself. I mean, so obviously...
Don't worry, Dan, so does everyone else. You're not alone.
But I mean, I think you can kind of see why this one has failed, right?
Well, I'm not sure that's why the console failed, but it's certainly... I'm not sure he helped.
No. It's... I mean, it was astonishing. And that's the thing. I always remember that. So... If you look it up, you'll see a picture of the crashed Ferrari.
I remember. That is the one part of it. When you started saying he crashed an Enzo, I remember that from back in the day, and I remember a picture of half a car on a highway, and I think it was the front end of it was the bit that remained, and I'm guessing it kind of sheared in half, and they walked away from the front end of it. Which is a miracle in itself at a speed. 200 mile an hour crash with that,
Yeah.
My God. I mean, some people have got the luck of the gods, haven't they? Like, Jesus. Maybe it was being in Uppsala, which has got a Viking-related thing. But
there you go. I don't know. But I did find a CNET review of the Gizmondo at the time.
Okay.
And just the good and bad, it says the good is a robust design, which, is positive. GPS functionality, which I don't actually think worked that well, but they put it as good. The good is you've got the sticky balls game.
Yeah.
Right. You've got an SD card input.
Right.
and multimedia capability. So those are all the good. The bad, lack of game support, which for a games machine isn't great. Looks uncool, which I think is a bit harsh because it actually kind of looks like the N-Gage, but not. It's not horrific.
I've got a picture of it here, and it looks absolutely terrible. What are those shoulder buttons?
I think
it looks like it's got ears.
2004, right?
I tell you what it looks like. It looks like a panda that's been punched in the face. That's what it looks like.
It does actually. I'm looking at it now.
It's quite terrible.
What were those like toys for kids that was supposedly like their first
Speak and Spell
gaming machine? Well, kind of something like that. Or those like Tomitronic or whatever. It kind of looks like a little kid's like my first gaming handheld thing. You know,
yes, it does.
It's a pretend one.
Yeah, my first handheld.
Yeah, they said it looks uncool, built-in advertising, long start-up time, difficult text messaging. So, yeah.
You could text on it.
Yeah, well, supposedly.
Okay.
But this is it, right? The final line of it I took, 'cause it says, if you're into gadgets or collect gaming hardware, you might well enjoy the platform. But it feels distinctly old hat next to the, get this, shiny new PSP. So this launched against the PSP.
Wow. Wow. No way. Can you imagine how bad that would go now if you launch something of an equivalent of like nowadays PSP and that? Like, no one would even pick it up or review it. I mean, no content creators would go near it. It would just, or if they did, it would be for novelty. Mate, that is, yeah, that's something
Celebrity
else.
Scandal and failed to launch. There you go.
We should have included that in our outrageous episode, but
do you know what? When I was doing this, I thought, do you know what I should do? But I'm glad we managed to get that in because, yeah, what a story.
Do it, George Lucas, and go and remaster some of the older episodes and slip these ones in. I'll be honest.
Mandela affected.
Yeah, the Gizmondo and the N-Gage is what I would describe as slinkies. They're slinkies, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They serve absolutely no purpose, but still put a smile on your face if you throw them downstairs.
Yeah.
That's how I would call them.
But I love it. It's like, right, we've just seen the N-Gage. Imagine in that boardroom, we've just seen Nokia release the N-Gage. What are we going to do? We're going to hit back. What with? Something even worse.
But let's get a criminal involved while we do it. Anyone else out there doing something similar? Some company called Sony are bringing something out, something about a PlayStation thing. I don't know.
It will never work.
Yeah, that'll never win. Speaking of which, so my next one is actually, I've called it, I think it's a failed console, or maybe not a failed to launch, but a failed console. And I'm going to assume there are a number of people out there who probably agree with me, but there were equally a number of people who loved the thing. And this was coming off the back of a very, very successful console from the same company. So prior to this, Nintendo had launched the Wii, which magically appeared in, I think, everyone's living room. To the point where I'm not sure anyone actually ever purchased a Wii. I think they just turned up. It was there one morning and you go downstairs and someone's playing bowling or tennis. And you're like, where did that come from? I don't know. It's always been here. That's how it felt with the Wii. Like everyone had one. And then they launched the Wii U. Did you ever play a Wii U?
I don't think I did. I remember, wasn't that though what everybody wanted at the time because of the
Absolutely.
Wii?
And this is what I mean.
Yeah.
The Wii, phenomena.
Yeah.
The Wii U, I got to get one of them because there was a Wii.
Yeah.
And then they got it. And they went, I wish this hadn't turned up in my house. Because this is of a time, this is 2012, right? So this is of a time when you have your PlayStation 4's about to launch, your Xbox One's about to launch. You know, these are like monumental things in gaming. And Nintendo should have been up there competing. And instead they launched something weird. Like a lot of people genuinely thought it was an add-on for the Wii.
Oh, for the Wii, yeah.
Yeah, it was, you know, because it had a similar name and it had this touchscreen controller, which was the gimmick, right? We always, you know, Nintendo always have a gimmick, but it was significantly, like a lot of their stuff is, like the Switch 2 even now is underpowered, right? So it wasn't a particularly powerhouse for console, which is fine, providing you've got the right level of third-party support, the right level of even in, your own games. And I think about the only thing on there was one of the Zelda games, which was, kind of okay. But again, bloody awkward to play. I played one and you had this handheld thing and your aiming was done with the gyroscope. And it just wasn't.
Right.
There are plenty of games you do that with now and can do that with even on the PlayStation now. This was terrible, like really hard to aim with. Or maybe it was just me, I don't know. But it was really bad. Should say pad, because a lot of the dependency was on this gamepad. It was very innovative, but it was also very expensive to replace. And you imagine it's got a kind of a touchscreen on it, like actual visual thing you could easily break. So replacing one of those, and not a lot of games decided to pick it up and play it. A lot of multi-platform games, which was becoming a bigger and bigger thing at the time, your FIFAs and Call of Duties and things like that, refused to develop for it because they didn't know what to do with it. And in terms of sales, you look at what Nintendo did, and I haven't got the stats for the Wii, but this only sold about 13.56 million, which is big numbers still, which is why I was a bit hesitant about putting it up here. But I think when you put it in the lineup of everything Nintendo have done, and I do have another Nintendo one for later, which is a bit of a blind, or you might have one. We might have the same one.
I've only got one more, not Nintendo.
Okay, I've got a Nintendo one. It's a goodie. But yeah, it was certainly Nintendo's least successful home console in terms of sales.
Okay.
So yeah.
Did they do a Wii 2?
No, it was the Wii U.
Okay,
people assumed it would be a Wii 2.
Right.
But it was a Wii U. And I'm not even, I still don't even know what U meant. It's a weird thing.
Know. But I remember, like I said, I remember a guy at work, maybe it was first Wii, but I remember, they were like, you couldn't get them for love nor money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's the same guy that had the N-Gage, though, I'm assuming, Dan.
no, different
old
guy,
crazy
guy
Jim Bob at work who just bought random shit consoles.
He's got a cupboard. He's got a cupboard.
Come and see my collection. No, I'm all right, thanks.
It's where all the pictures.
I've got a 3D O'Galley. I'm all right, thanks, mate.
It's where all the pictures on Wikipedia are coming from. He's kept
it's all him.
I guess feels like a victim of just trying to be too much. And like you said, the thing is you can throw everything at it, but you've got to have the developers willing to develop for that.
It might be the best console in the world, and if no one wants to touch it, what's the point?
Yeah.
Because your in-house stuff's just not going to do it. Right? It's going to get you so far. Right? You're going to have great first-party games, and they're going to be amazing. But then once you've done those, then what? And the Zelda game was great, but it was really awkward to play with the gamepad, that was all.
Yeah. I guess Nintendo almost can get a free hit at certain things like that, can't it? Because it's pedigree.
They've not done bad for themselves, let's put it that way.
Well, yeah. Actually, because I was going to say a memory I had, but do you want to just do your second Nintendo one then? Or are you saving that for later?
No, we can. If we're on a Nintendo rag, let's do it now. So, Nintendo.
We love you, Nintendo.
We do. No, genuinely, we do. You know, I love Nintendo, right? I wouldn't be putting money in their pockets if I didn't. So, Nintendo also had the Nintendo Virtual Boy.
Yeah, because I was going to say this was a memory I had.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a memory, Dan. It was a memory. It just wasn't a dream or a nightmare, unfortunately. So this is 1995, the Nintendo Virtual Boy. And I must admit, when this came up, I was a bit like, I thought that happened, but it did happen. So
I played one. Have
you? So I've never played one. Okay, so we'll have to rely on your memory of that playthrough. You never actually played one. So it was a weird monochrome, and by monochrome I don't mean black and white. It was a red and black visual outlay, right? With a 3D effect, and it was you kind of use this binocular style headset to kind of do that. But a lot of the feedback from it, which probably should have told everyone what they needed to know, was that it caused terrible eye strain, headaches, and came with health warnings.
Hello.
Right. Yeah, right. It was also a tabletop design, so this wasn't right. Yeah, this was you leant into it, which made it quite awkward to use because you had to lean into this thing to use the thing. Not particularly helpful. I mean, I don't know why Nintendo didn't come in, and maybe we'll get a head strap. That might help. No, not doing that. So physically very uncomfortable to play, and you can attest to that if you when we talk about how it played. So you couldn't port it, so it wasn't like a handheld you could take around. It was more of a kind of home console. I think it had about 22 games to its name, and I suspect they were all quite similar because what else can you do with it? It's not a VR like, it's a, and it lasted only about a year on the market, selling just under 800,000 units. It's in terms of system launches, whilst the Wii was their worst home console, this was their worst and biggest commercial failure ever. The Nintendo Virtual Boy. So what's your memory of it?
Sorry, I was just going to ask you, what year did you say it was?
95.
95. Yeah, so no, I played it, when I say recently, it's probably a few years back, but it's either an exhibition or a convention or one of these, these like retro kind of arcade places that you go to. And they had one there. And and that's why I wanted to look it up, but you said it anyway, because I had the memory of it, being set up on a table and, putting your face into it, basically, or onto it. And it's everything you said. It was just red, and it was so difficult on the eyes. And I was hoping to maybe give it the benefit of the doubt that because it was an old system, it was maybe on its last legs. But no, it was just incredible because it is like, look, you said as well, monochrome. Like the Game Boy was monochrome, but that worked fine.
Yeah.
That was a perfect screen. It was just, I could only play it for about 5 minutes because it's
just such a weird. I mean, look. Kudos to Nintendo for trying something different, because they're the guys that you go to do that, right? You want a wacky console or something different, and I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that, the development in whatever way, shape or form helped them to progress to, what they do today and what they did with the Wii, right? It would have, yes, they'd have got knocked sideways by the fact it failed, but they'd have picked themselves up and gone on to do something very clever like they did with the gyroscopic sticks and stuff for the Wii. So, great that it did that. But just such a weird flex to kind of go, hey, we've had all this success with these handhelds and these consoles. What should we do next? Stick a pair of binoculars on a stalk and put it on a table. Yeah. Just feels like a weird direction to travel in.
And you must think they must have play tested it, right? Or got focus groups.
Well, they did, because they had a health warning on it, Dan. So it's like, we know, it's almost like going, we made this pretty bad thing. We know it's quite bad. Let's make sure people, if we spend too much, let's just release it and let people know it's really bad. I mean, if you've never seen one, the best way to describe it is it looks like a robotic lawnmower on a stand with a drone controller attached to it. That's kind of how it's just such a weird looking thing.
Well, I've got a picture here of a child. She can't be more than like a toddler, and it is bigger than her head. She's putting her head into it, but I can only imagine that it's like her nose and her mouth is also in that eye visor because it just looks so big on her.
It's just such a weird thing. I can't get my head around why anyone would have assumed it would have worked well, but they launched it and it failed quite spectacularly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it might have paved the way for, but no, that's maybe the Game Boy, because this would have come out before that, right?
Is this before the Game Boy? No, it can't be before.
I know. What year 95. Did you say? 95. Yeah, because what this did remind me of very quickly. The Game Boy launched in Japan in '89. So yeah, all right. It reminds me. I had I used to, maybe there's an episode like the old Game and Watches and those handheld devices you had.
They were great.
I had the Tomy. I think again it was Tomy. It was one that it looked like a triangle thing that you put to your eyes, and it was like the one I had was a shark attack game.
Oh, I remember
one that
those.
Was a driving game.
Yes, I do remember those. They, the triangle. They were fine, but you could pick them up and use them,
fine.
right?
Yes, yeah.
Not
exactly.
Nail them to a table and stick your face into, which is just weird. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I never owned one because my back is bad enough now. Like, can you imagine what it would have been hooked over one of those for the whole year that they sold it?
And do you know what? I want to say, if anyone is listening, has got any of these things we're talking about, is do get in touch with us.
Oh yeah, if you've got one or had an experience with one, comment. Just come back. Like and subscribe first, obviously. That's important.
Yeah.
But comment. Let us know what they were like, because neither you or I owned one, thankfully. Maybe it would have been better if we did. At least we could have talked about how great they were, rather than just saying they look shit.
I don't know. I've already worn glasses for about 30 odd years, and that wasn't from playing video games. If I'd have played that, I don't know what would have happened, right? So
that's a weird thing.
Right. So, shall I do my next one?
It's your last one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do your next one.
Do my next one. So I don't know if you can see over my shoulder. That was a little clue. That fantastic drawing. So I am going to talk about one I actually wanted at the time.
Okay.
So this is the Ouya. So do you remember the Ouya?
I do remember the Ouya. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going back to 2013. So that's when it was released. So it was the interesting thing about this one as well was it was funded by Kickstarter. So it didn't come from like a Nintendo or Sony, etc. It was a Kickstart project. Now, its goal was to raise $950,000, and within 8 hours, it surpassed $1 million. Right. In total, it raised 8.5 million, and it became one of the website's highest-earning projects. Now, within its first 24 hours, it attracted one backer every 5.59 seconds.
Yeah.
So, this was something that people wanted. So the demand was there. Yep. Right. And it was the 8th project also. Yeah, it says it to raise more than $1 million. So it was priced at £99. So quite
reasonable.
Cheap.
What was this? 2013? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it was $99. So look at that one for one there. Now, what it was so ultimately it was an Android. It was almost like a console to play your Android phone games, wasn't it? It was
mobile phone in a box without the mobile phone
basically,
bits.
Yeah. But I think what attracted me to that was because, we've got to remember 2013 is what the iPhone, etc., which I know is an Android, but the iPhone had been out for a number of years, hadn't it? And that's then gaming on mobiles really became a thing. Then Android obviously kicked into life. You got the Android store, the Play Store. Gaming on phones started to really become an interesting landscape then, didn't it, in terms of what they were putting out there?
Yeah.
So kind of like, I'm going to equate it to a modern thing. I'm not saying the two things are alike, but like the Steam Deck now, where people want to play Steam games on like a portable handheld.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's almost the opposite, where people then, I guess the idea was you could play your Android games on a TV screen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other interesting thing about it was also a dev kit. So if you bought this and you had a bit of technical know-how, you could also develop your own games for it, right?
Yeah.
So again, another really cool thing, right? So you're going to be a gamer. You've got your own digital storefront that you can then develop your own games and push to. But it only lasted 2 years. So it was discontinued pretty much exactly 2 years later, at the start of July 2015. Now, I looked around and I said, why did it fail? So there was a number of things that happened to it. One of the big sins it did was it hit store shelves before it went out to a lot of the Kickstart backers.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which has got to be terrible, right? I mean, that's the whole point of Kickstart, right? Is you get
it up front, you pay for it.
Yeah. The hardware and software was also found wanting, so it was difficult to use the UI, but the fan was loud, and it had Wi-Fi and Bluetooth issues. Now, the thing is, it's a tiny little box. Like that picture behind me is pretty much what it looks like. It was a tiny little box. So
the box was about half the size of the controller. To be fair, it was.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. It launched with a limited library of games, which we've said a number of times in other episodes about certain things, and that's also, I guess, a big no-no for something that hasn't got a name for itself. And while I said mobile games were developing, it was mostly made up of like the casual games which people already had on their smartphones. Now, to make matters worse, the top-selling exclusive was a game called Towerfall, only sold about 7,000 units. And in total, the Ouya sold 200,000 units. So it looks like fundamentally it tried to bridge a gap between hardcore console gamers and mobile gamers, but it's, like people were saying, hardcore gamers probably don't have much of an appetite for your mobile games, and your mobile game players want to play it quick 5 minutes on the go rather than being at a TV with a...
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Now, not particularly well executed.
No, it did have some controversy as well. Not quite the levels of the Gizmondo.
Do love a bit of controversy, don't you?
Dan Controversy P, that's what they call me. So in 2013, they announced what was called the Free the Games Fund. So what that was it was a fund where if you were going to develop a game on Kickstarter, they would match the minimum target. Ouya would match any Kickstarter campaign if a minimum target of $50,000 was reached, and the game remained Ouya exclusive for 6 months. Thing is, you can't have a good thing without people abusing it. So suspicions were raised when the first 2 games to reach the target, people noticed a small number of backers, each pledging a high value amount.
Right.
And the large number of those had never backed a project before. So basically, it was like the backers were backing their own thing to get the extra money from Ouya. So
really?
Yeah. So a lot of genuine developers actually pulled their games from that fund because they didn't want to be associated with that potentially. And just for one, they also found the use of duplicate names and avatars that included celebrities. And I think in one project they had a backer whose identity had been taken from that of a missing persons case.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
So
probably voting as well, right?
Nice. Well, yeah. Well, they wanted to do something nice. And just to finish, I found an IGN summary at the time.
Yep.
And they said, in its attempt to merge realms of mobile games and traditional consoles, the Ouya fails to do anything as well as its smartphone or console competitors. In a market where Sony and Microsoft are embracing independent publishing and mobile games are becoming more advanced with gamepad add-ons, why would you want an Ouya? And if I saw right, I'm not going to read it all, but the Eurogamer review said this right. It said, even without the PS4 and Xbox One looming on the horizon, Ouya is hard to recommend when you can pick up a brand new Xbox 360 for just £30 more. Now, that was incredible. When I saw that, I was thinking, how'd you
I know which I'd rather have.
Yeah.
It's a weird direction to go, like looking back on it. And I know a lot of people on Kickstarter had an appetite for it, and you can kind of see why. Because I guess that it's easy, hindsight's 2020, right? So it's easy to sit here and say, yeah, but why would you do that when you're going to have an Android phone that's going to be able to do all of that in not a year from then, right? That's exactly what happened. And your Apple, all of those. So hindsight's wonderful. So you can kind of see why, but it was a bit of a weird thing to do when you are literally on the cusp of moving into a world where everyone plays those exact type of games, because the third party support was very poor in terms of large platform games. I think it did eventually have about 150 odd games released for it, so it wasn't a slouch in that term. It did have a number of games released for it, but like you say, they were all more of the retro quick fix, short play things that you could get on a phone and download quite easily to your phone. So to then have something that attached you to a television when you didn't need to be was a weird direction to travel for them. And that controller is just hideous, dude. I mean, it is. Talk about bad designs. I will talk about another one that had a phenomenally bad design as well in a minute, but that was pretty poor.
Yeah, I think I wanted it because at the time I probably either had iPhones for a couple of years or I hadn't even got iPhone. I was probably still on the non-smartphone world. Right. And I thought, well, the ability to have some of those Android games might be quite fun. I mean, look, £99 it's not a drop in the ocean. It's not a fortune, but it's also not sort of like a £5 or a £10. Right?
Not in those days, no.
No, but the other thing it said is it also didn't support the Play Market, the Google Play Market, which feels like a big oversight. So
weird. Right. I'm going to build an Android thing and not have Google Play on there.
Yeah. So again, I kind of feel these ones, they tried to do the right thing. It's not like they were trying to do a bad thing. It's or the idea was there. It's just maybe yeah, it just didn't have enough to hook people on it. Maybe it should have come out a bit earlier, or maybe you bring it out later.
I like the idea of it being an SDK and you being able to create. I like that element of it. I also like the fact that I think before it even launched, there were blogs and stuff up online that were basically telling you how to connect it to an Xbox controller, because the controller was so bad. It's just like, before you even get it in your hands, don't bother with it.
Yeah.
Come on. I think the controller was about 40 quid.
Was it?
Yeah, it's just like, that. I mean, I know you pay almost twice that now for an Xbox controller, but well, maybe not on Prime Day sales. Not a sponsor, could be. But but still expensive in its day. And when you look at it, people, when you go and have a look at it, if you're listening on Spotify or wherever, go and have a look at it. If you're watching it, there will be an image of it. It's a terrible design for a controller. Like, you wouldn't believe it. I cannot imagine how uncomfortable that thing would have been to hold. It is not ergonomically designed.
The thing that strikes me about it is, like I said, it's just how phenomenally well it did do on Kickstarter. Yeah. So, like I said, and they didn't lie about it. So the demand was there. It just didn't deliver. But also, it really struck me. I know I've said it, but it struck me about the fact that it was only £30 less than an Xbox 360. That's incredible.
It's mad.
It really is.
And well, at the time, in fairness, I mean, and they could have been referring to picking one up in game secondhand. So
maybe,
you never know.
Maybe.
Because, but still, I'd still rather do that than have one of those.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we look? I've got a few. Look, I said I had 14. I'm not going to bore people to death with the 14, right? But we'll run through a couple and I'll go through these at pace and if you want to pick up on any of them, please do. I'll just give you a couple of facts. So a couple we've mentioned before, probably in our. Oh my word! Can't remember which episode it was. I am getting old. So the Atari Jaguar. So So this, I think, it was probably when we talked about our PlayStation episode, and we talked about kind of the competition at the time, right? So the Jaguar, 64-bit status. I'd say, 64-bit status, because it was actually two 32-bit processors, right, with a 64-bit bus. So it's not really 64-bit,
I love the logic, though.
Well, it's like me saying I've got a 400 horsepower car, and what I've got is two 204 horsepower cars, but I can drive them both differently. It was very complex to develop for, in terms of its architecture, and programmers just hated developing for it. Although a couple of standout games like AVP and things like that, the people actually still post online about how great those ones are. Again, a lot of them have a very similar thing in common around design. So very poor controller design. It was weird, unwieldy, and it had far too many buttons. It was just loaded with them. And then, as we said before, the competition had reached critical mass. So you had PlayStation, you had the Saturn, even the Saturn eclipsed it. And it just didn't make any impact. So that was the Atari Jaguar. So long, thanks for all the fish. You had the Philips CDI. Again, it was marketed as and CDI was CD Interactive. So it was an interactive entertainment system, rather than a dedicated console, which made it quite a weird offering at the time. It was very, very expensive, nearly $700. Well, depending where you got it, $700 to $1,000 $700, which was about $1,000 in early 90s money. Very poor games. Even as we'd said before, Nintendo licensed things to it, like Zelda Wand of Gamelon, which
I was going to say there was an iconic meme. Yeah, sort of Zelda,
Hotel Mario, so even Mario was on it, but they were really bad and often cited as some of the worst games ever made. And again, awkward controls because it came with a clunky infrared remote. So, again, quite terrible.
Infrared, okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip the next one because it's a little bit harsh, but the Sega Dreamcast, because I think that is truly one that was ahead of its time. It was technologically advanced. It had online play. It had great graphics. I think there was a lot of questions over Sega's reputation after the failure of another one that I will come to in a minute. You had the PlayStation 2 coming up. Piracy was a massive problem for it in terms of the discs. And it just had a very short lifespan. So unfortunately, it did fail, but not for the.
It was a much loved system, wasn't it? Like you said, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't fail because of itself, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Another one we've mentioned previously is the 3DO. So this is the one Trip Hawkins and those guys built. So this was very, very expensive. Again, at $700 for what it was. It was a weird licensing model because it had all these people like Panasonic, Sanyo, Gold Star, all trying to lump in and create something and make money off of it. So they tried to make money off the hardware, not the games. And so the console prices all remained very high. There were hardly any exclusives for it. And it had problems with the CD technology at the time was very much in its infancy. So that kind of had a problem with it. I'll quickly skip over another couple. So you've got, I mentioned with the Dreamcast, it was coming off the back of quite a rough ride, but that was mainly around the 32X, which was an add-on. It was an add-on for the Genesis, and it just confused and fragmented the market, so did really badly. Apple had one, and I talked about a really bad controller. So Apple had the Bandai Pippin back in '96, right? It was a multimedia console. It's very Apple, in fairness. I mean, it's very white in its design. The controller is possibly the weirdest thing you'll ever have seen. It's basically a boomerang with a trackball in the middle of it. Which
going to look it up now.
Which failed quite notoriously a lot, and so you had to have a special tool to take the thing off to clean the trackball. So the old mouse type thing, you know, where the pads would get really dirty. Yeah, you had to do that on those. You had the Amstrad GX4000, which was also an 8-bit console, which was weird because it was launching just as 16-bit was taking off. So it's like the Amstrad as usual.
We're here.
I'm not blaming Alan Sugar, but we're coming. Hang on a minute. We're catching up. Sorry. We're shut. Then you had the Gizmondo and the Ouya. We are awesome. Now, the last one I did want to get to, and it is truly the last one I have, and I only wanted to cover this one, sir, because it is also one that you had as well.
Yeah.
So this is the OnLive, and I think, so this is 2010, and I think I am right in saying that you had one and got one the same way I got one. And I'll talk about how I got one. Yeah. But first, let's just talk a little about OnLive.
Although, sorry to interrupt you there. My one is slightly more annoying because I think you got yours totally without paying.
I did.
It's legal, everyone. Before we get it, don't switch off.
I didn't nick it.
But I had to pay a small amount for mine, and I'll explain why. Yeah.
All right, fine. Yeah. So this was one that, yes, it did fail, but I genuinely believe, and I think you do as well, right, that this was truly ahead of its time. Because if you look at the way that we play now, and I certainly play, and I know a number of other people play and can play, and I'm not going to say this is an Xbox, but this is an Xbox. It is essentially the precursor to that, right? So OnLive, for those of you who haven't seen it, was a pioneering gaming cloud service. So essentially, it was a little box that was able to stream high-end games to multiple devices, be it a PC, a Mac, a TV, whatever, all over the internet, a bit exactly as we do now with streaming our games, and didn't need any powerful local hardware. Right, it ran on quite high-end gaming PCs at the back end. The problem was, at the time, something we completely take for granted now, the infrastructure limitations of the internet at the time. So that was the biggest hurdle. Broadband, the rollout of broadband, it wasn't what it was. It was low latency, high bandwidth. The connections weren't widespread, so it wasn't enough to provide reliable, lag-free gaming for the masses. So, you know, people who were lucky enough to have high-end broadband at the time, which wasn't what it is now. You know, you're not talking about your fiber to the prem and all that sort of stuff. So input lag and video compression was quite gnarly on the thing. The business model was a bit confusing, and we'll get to that when we talk about how I received mine. You paid a monthly subscription fee, which isn't weird now, right? It's the normal thing to do. Yeah. But you did that in addition to buying the game. So you bought the game, and then you rented the ability to play the game, which is kind of weird. That did drop. They stopped doing that. But the model never recovered, and it was always kind of a weird, confusing thing as to how to do it. And obviously the high cost in the back end of running those, running the server farms, because of the GPU demand, was a significant drain on the company. There weren't many compelling exclusives, so they didn't have a killer app to go for, and the user base, they just couldn't maintain it because of all of those previous problems. And I think the peak across the platform in 2012 was about 1,800. So actually, Dan, we were an endangered species when we played on that.
Yeah. If you think about it, we were at least a part of kind of like gaming history in that sense.
Yeah.
Then.
The other thing that impacted it was obviously, at the time, if you say to someone now, I've been streaming games, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, love it. If you said it back then, people were like, why didn't you just buy a console? Right? It was almost taboo to talk about streaming things. Because again, it's that whole, I don't understand why you rent something you can own. And yet everyone now is on Spotify or they're on Apple and they're not buying their music, they're renting their music. So it was there was a lot of skepticism around it. And obviously that was then validated by the fact that poor experiences when playing it, etc., happened. And then the company struggled financially because of all of this stuff. And I think it eventually got acquired by Sony, who then shut it down and used some of its infrastructure for their cloud-based stuff. So a shame because it was truly ahead of its time. Now, how I got mine, I went to... Was it called EGX back then? Is it still called EGX now? The gaming show?
No, I think then it was the Eurogame.
Eurogame, right.
I think it then changed, didn't it?
Yeah, so I went along to one of those in London at Earl's Court.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, roaming around after, seeing numerous and playing numerous games and stuff, and I just happened to walk past the OnLive. And it was a tiny little thing. It wasn't like a big stall out on the floor. It was like a tiny little pop-up thing. And they had a bunch just kind of sitting there. And the guy was just like, do you want one? And I was like, what is it? And so he explained it and kind of talked about it. And I might have even paid £1 for it, Dan. It might have been one of those things where you had to pay a transaction. That might have been it. And I may have done that. My memory isn't what it was. So I literally went to a game show, walked out with a new console, which was a weird thing to do. And it came in a lovely box. It had the console, it had the controller. I got home, I set it up. I was lucky enough to have half decent broadband at the time, and was able to play quite happily on it and quite enjoyed it. I mean, it never took the place of what would have been at the time an Xbox and probably a 360 or something like that, and a PlayStation, or maybe even an Xbox One. So it never took the place of them, but it was a fun thing to have while it lasted. But obviously, it died quite quickly, and then you turn it on one day and there's no service. So it's kind of. But how did you get yours?
Well, it's the same. So I went the next day. I think you went on day one, whether that was a Friday or Saturday. I went the day after. So I went there, and they'd actually run out the physical units.
Oh, okay.
So basically, they were giving people a card, and so all I had to do was pay for postage, which I think was like £5.
Right.
So again, it wasn't a lot, but you filled in a card online, and you paid postage and got it. Now, I kind of just really want to echo what you said. I mean, it's a great piece of kit. I mean, when you look at it, imagine having, and it is a really small box. You've just got, imagine it's like an external hard drive now, isn't it? It was on your.
That's what it looked like. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was about the size. I will get this. I will demonstrate this for those people who.
Yeah. What I was getting at, the controller was great.
It was about as big as this.
Yeah.
It was about this size.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's listening online, it's probably about 3 inches by 2 inches. And that's not what I've got out, by the way.
So
I have got out
I can see my reflection.
It is an external hard drive. I'm not talking about 3 inches by. Never mind. So
yeah. That's the Patreon. And and the controller was great. And like you said, Now for me, I would have had the Xbox then, but again, kind of like now, not having the PC, it was a chance you could, like you said, rent games that maybe I wouldn't have the chance to have. Now, I remember, I think I rented, it was one of I'm sure it was like the old Space Marine games.
Mm.
And I just remember being disappointed because it felt like a great experience, but the lag was too much.
Yeah, there was a lot of lag.
It killed it. And this was it. It was just, I've said it so many times when I've mentioned this to people, it was just ahead of its time. Yeah. If it had come out just a few years later, obviously it was going up against the Sonys and the Microsofts, but if it could have pulled that off, it would have been great. And, I remember even back then, because like I said, these server farms, I've got a mind that in Europe, they were in Switzerland. And I was thinking, hold on, so you're telling me this little box, I'm going to be playing a game off a server in Switzerland on my TV. and I was so in for it. It just fell flat, and it's just
It did.
such a shame.
But
Such
in,
a- and
in
like you
fairness,
said-
right, these were the little ones doing this, and then you had the big boys like Amazon and Google Stadia. They all tried to do this,
Yeah.
and they had infrastructure, and they failed.
Yeah. But like you said, at least it kind of did pave the way a little bit. It did help Sony, because I think they used it in their whatever they're on now or
Yeah.
PS Now, whatever it is. So at least it kind of had a function there. But yeah, I've got fond memories for this, even though it didn't quite work. I love, and look, we got it for free, right? If we'd have paid maybe £100 for it, we'd be having a different story. But I think even they probably knew back then that
I think so.
they needed to get the buzz out.
I think
out.
what's telling is that the companies who tried to make it its own thing, streaming on its own, not as an addition to what you already get. So you look at Microsoft and Game Pass, and if you pay for Ultimate, you get your game streaming. You can stream some of your own games now, and all of the kind of Game Pass back catalogue. The same with Sony, do the same thing. It's an addition to what you do. You're not just paying for that. And the players who, including Google, who tried to make it just that, they struggled a bit. I think the only one who's successfully doing that at the moment, who don't have anything else attached to it that I know of, and I don't use it, so I apologise if I am wrong, is Nvidia, who have their streaming service.
Oh, yeah,
which I don't think there's anything else you get as a part of that. You can pay exclusively for that, or maybe you get it thrown in with a high-end graphics card. I don't know, so I do a bit of research. But yeah, I think they're the only ones who are kind of making a bit of a success of it, and even then, I don't know how successful that is.
But yeah, it's a shame. It's shame is the word I use for this, because I'm just looking at pictures now and the memories it brings back. Because like I said, it was packaged well. It was a decent bit of kit. We just, especially in this country, I don't know in the States maybe if it would have worked, but in this country, it took so long for. I mean, even the majority of the country to get broadband probably only happened a few years back, didn't it?
Yeah.
Some of the outlying areas.
Even the controller was, it was a cracking controller, because it was like an Xbox controller crossed with a PlayStation DualShock in terms of the position of the thumbsticks. They were aligned.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was, it was a lovely controller. It was ergonomically designed well. It was good to play. Yeah, just a shame, really.
Oh, I just clicked on the website to see if it's still there, and it's obviously taken me to a complete dodgy site, because of course it wouldn't be there anymore. So
not there anymore. No.
Yeah.
OnLive is probably some other completely different site, Dan. I can watch live?
Yeah, no, that's a completely different episode. Shame, but it like I said, at least it kind of did help to pave the way for something else for Sony, I guess.
Yeah. I think it got cloud-based gaming into the consciousness, into the public consciousness, and kind of people became more familiar with it, more comfortable with it. And now, like I said, it's kind of a throw-in with stuff you already do. And I make really good use of that, right? I told you, when we first started talking on the podcast about going away on holiday and taking the backbone with me and streaming my games while I was away on my phone and playing, which was a brilliant thing to do, right? So, and I'm thankful that the OnLive paved the way for that in some small way.
Yes, yeah. No, brilliant. Thank you. So was that all your list then?
That was my entire list. There was a Commodore reference in there, and I'm not even going to go there. Commodore had something similar. I can't remember what it was. It had a random name. Let's see if I can find it. The CDTV.
Oh, do I? I'm not sure if I knew that one.
Yeah, Commodore CDTV. Again, it will have been something terrible. I don't even know if I can be asked to look it up, to be honest.
But gaming is a bit full of that as well. So didn't Microsoft, like the Xbox, try go head to head with, because Sony had the Blu-rays, didn't it? So then didn't the Xbox have an external thing you could buy, like the HD DVD or something, wasn't it? Like
yeah. That was on the 360, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think they dropped that. So and like I said, we'll go right back to the beginning.
That was a format wars type thing again.
Yeah,
because it was like Betamax and VHS. It was a format wars around Blu-ray and whatever it was, HD, CD or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
I do remember that. God,
that
Dan,
struck me when
stop bringing back memories for me.
But yeah, it's like I said, just going back to the beginning, I think, hopefully you found this interesting in the sense of it's just part of gaming's history, and there's successes and failures for many reasons. Like we said, it's whether just bad planning, whether it's criminal activity, or whether it's just being ahead of their time, that's always a sad one, isn't it?
Yeah.
The being ahead of its time, because you wonder what the landscape might have looked like if those ones had taken off. So, all right, Dan, anything else from you?
I've got one question.
Oh yeah,
just behind you on behind your right shoulder. What is it that Keir Starmer doesn't want to listen to? I've been sitting here all episode looking at that, and I don't even know what he doesn't want to listen to.
I'm not going to look at that the same now.
You'll never see it again the same way.
It's a compilation of factory records, so it's just a compilation of their
It's
bands.
not. It's half a Keir Starmer's head with his fingers in his ears, Dan. That's what it is.
So again, if you're listening only, go over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to that. No, I just want one more thing to say to you. How have I become more and more glistening as this episode's gone on, but you don't look like you've got bead of sweat on you?
It's the lighting, Dan. I'll be honest, it's the lighting. If you get yourself a light for your video, you'll be fine.
Yeah, or maybe not a light that's shining right down on you. I mean, it's still 31 in here, so yeah.
It's a bit warm.
All right, Dan, thank you for helping us take that trip down. I was going to say down failure lane, but that sounds bad.
I like that. I go down this trip down failure lane. It sounds like an episode of my life. That's what this is my life
Memory
episode
lane.
be called. Welcome to failure lane.
I want to say hi. I managed to sort of force a few more subscriptions at work this week. So.
Strong arming is the way to go, Dan.
Yeah, so I'm going to say hi to Gary, Richard and Hayden. I also want to say hi to the awesome GCP and everyone over at the Pod Pack. Dan, do we like Souls likes? Have we?
I haven't played any. Does that help? I've not picked any up recently.
Sorry, Joey, it's not stuck with us. So.
I didn't run away and pick up Dark Souls 2. Let's put it that way. I'd struggle to recover it from being burnt. I think that's probably the.
Also, again, just to reiterate something else we said at the start, please do stay tuned for next week's episode. Watch social medias for more information.
I'm genuinely hoping that nothing leaks on that one.
I like what you've done there.
Thanks.
I think I'm just going to end it there. Anything else from you?
Oh.
All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.